very well done on the film. I watched it with my entire family, a 6-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old, and then my wife, and we all thoroughly enjoyed it. And what I really appreciated is that none of them had any knowledge of Ultraman going into it. How did you balance making a movie that would be a great on-ramp for new people while also being a satisfying Ultraman experience for veteran fans?
So as fans of Ultraman, John and I worked really hard we wanted to weave some of that lore and that legacy into the film. But you can also, when you're a fan, it's hard to see the things that people might not get or understand because you know them automatically. So that's where you bring in people, whether it's through test audiences or whether it's through friends that we trust to be able to watch the film and say, I don't know anything about Ultraman, I'm not quite understanding this, or this is not clear, what's your intent here? And listening to that. You know, when there's a consensus, you should probably listen to it. And we did, while at the same time trying to find a specific vision for the film and pay attention to the lore. So like Ken Sato, we had to juggle all those things, and it was hard at times, it was revealing at times, but I would say we both learned a lot from that process.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, even through production, there were a lot of people that don't know the Ultraman either, and didn't grow up like we did. And so, you know, to really communicate with our crew about like what, you know, why it's so special. And so through that process, I think it just kind of naturally folded in and to like learn about like, well, what will communicate, what will land, because we even had our own crew feedbacks on what was working and what wasn't. So
this is a project that has been kind of in your mind for over 20 years. What was it about this story, this concept, that was worth holding on to for decades, multiple studios, and then committing to years of your life to telling this story?
Well, you can be a fan of something and you can love it intensely and it still doesn't have an emotional connection for you. But for me, it was always that parent and child story that I was trying to tell, that parents and children don't always understand each other, and this is about understanding. And the key to solving the problem between the kaiju and humanity is a child, a newborn that has she imprinted on Ultraman, she doesn't know anything about the kaiju world, she doesn't know, she's a fresh mind, and that innocent approach to it brings that balance. And so pulling inspiration from my own family, from my own friends, listening to the stories of the other folks on the team, made it something that was very personal and seemed to be a message that I think people want to hear, and that makes it worth making.
You touched on this just a little bit, but a lot of modern franchise films feel like they're only inspired by previous entries in that same franchise. It was called like creative inbreeding.
Yeah.
And one of the things I enjoyed about this is that it did pull all those outside influences. What were some film influences that were outside of the expected for a project like this?
Kramer versus Kramer was a big one, and I mentioned before I learned to stop saying that in pitches because we're going to make this big fun family movie and the inspiration is a film about divorce. But to me, I see that film as about a love story between a parent and child, a father who's not really being a father, who's forced to fall in love with the son, and the son falls in love with him, and that makes them both better people, and it actually resolves the conflict in the family. So that was a big one for me that I don't think anybody would ever see on the surface watching this movie, that Kramer versus Kramer was a big influence, but it's one of my favorite films and a huge inspiration for this movie.
I mean, for me, we just tapped into the series, right, and our own fandom for Ultra 7, and that's why there's a lot of, for the fans out there, there's a lot of Easter eggs on Ultra 7 that we both had connected with. But it was really getting that message of the meaning of Ultraman through under this, you know, amazing family theme that's throughout the film. So.
Somewhat to that point, I said I thought this movie is a really good on-ramp for the world of Ultraman. If someone watches this film and they go, I want to dig a little bit deeper into the world of Ultraman, what are some of the other entries in the series that you would recommend as those next steps?
Well, John mentioned our personal favorite is Ultra 7, which was the second character in the series. Then there's the Shin Ultraman movie that Hideaki Anno produced and wrote. That's another great way that condenses that first season of the series kind of into one movie, and it's really fun and really out there. And that stuff, you can watch it on YouTube. You can find it. Super Eyes made it available. So
there's a new series, Ultraman Arc.
Yeah, Ultraman Arc just came out. Yeah, and people are loving it. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that you can check out.
And one final question. What's a movie that you just love to recommend to people?
I usually like to recommend to people films that they may not have seen, and one of them is I Lost My Body. I Lost My Body is this beautiful animated film about a hand that's separated from a body, and it performs this magic trick, and it makes these poignant moments with just this disembodied hand. And it's a Netflix film. It's one of my favorite films of the last 10 years, and a lot of people haven't seen it, and I love recommending that movie because it really breaks your heart in a good way.
I used to say Miyazaki films, but I mean, everyone's been watching Miyazaki films. But just like Shannon, if I was to point out something, it might be Satoshi Kon's Millennium Falcon. Is what I get.
You're here in ILM, so yeah.
Millennium Actress is the title, and it's a really great film about this actress that had, and it's told so visually and through the timeline through the course of history, and it has a lot of the history in cinema, and so I think that's a good one for people to discover.
Well, very well done with the film. As a parent, I found it very poignant, and my 6-year-old was able to connect with it because it also had cute live images and all that fun stuff. So really well done.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for the questions, man. Appreciate it.